Yo, what up? Watashi wa danger done. And I return, bringing you another anime-based tier list. This one is the counterpart to one of the first tier lists. I don't know if it was one of the first or the first tier list that I made. A little while back, I did an anime antagonist tier list. It was funny, I did that one because it was easier to find a template for antagonist as well as protagonist. So this one is the protagonist tier list. So this tier list is going to be based off the same criteria as, or should I say similar criteria as the anime antagonist, which is basically going to be like how much they meant to their story, how much they meant to people, you know, how important that character was, how far they got, things of that nature, if they managed to accomplish their goals, if they were just like some run-of-the-mill character, things like that. And as with every tier list that I make, I'm going to explain every placement that I can. So this video is going to be lengthy, which you would already have seen once you clicked on it. So I'm just going to get started really. So see, we got the icon tier, which is pretty much the staples, you know, characters that everybody knows, characters that can't really be touched, characters that are without question pioneers for their archetype, you could say. Triple S would be the characters that pretty much made it to the end of their story, accomplished their goals, the characters that probably are also as well known, but maybe people haven't watched their series, but they know who the characters are, type shit. Double S would be slightly lower than that. Characters that are good, maybe not great, but certainly memorable. S tier would be characters that are known by name. Maybe they made it far in their stories, maybe they made it far in their popularity, but they probably didn't make it to the end. You know, they weren't, you know what? Now I'm thinking about it, maybe we got too many tiers here. Maybe I don't need a... we'll see how it goes. A would just be your average, borderline, probably newer characters that haven't done too much, things of that nature. B would be like the forgettable characters. C would be the characters that are probably just trash. And Purgatory would be for everyone that I don't know. And yeah, I might have to take out a tier. I'm not sure. We'll see. We're going to start from the top, work our way down. I had done this before, but the last list, or rather the last template that I used had a bunch of characters that I wasn't familiar with. They didn't even have half the characters that this one has, which is funny enough. So I don't know who this is. I don't know who that is either. Don't know you, and I don't know you. So I guess we starting with Ash. Ash Ketchum. I don't know if there's a new protagonist for Pokemon. I think it's still Ash. As far as personality goes, Ash isn't like any sort of pioneer, but everyone knows Pokemon. For that, honestly, I would have to put him in the top tier. I would have to, because they got Ash and Pikachu, and I feel like Ash and Pikachu, you have to like think of them together. No one who grew up in the 90s, save for people who didn't have televisions, didn't watch Pokemon. Like, that shit came on channel 11 every Saturday morning. I know I caught that shit faithfully. And if you watch Pokemon, you more than likely play Pokemon like early on. You probably had blue version, red version, yellow version. And you also know Pikachu. Pikachu has to be like the biggest mascot in anime. Feel me? Like, Ash is known like throughout the world. The fact that this nigga is still like the same character in the same series without having to really change anything is honestly a testament to how popular Pokemon is, but also like how important this nigga is to it. Feel me? Like, they could have changed the protagonist at any time, but it's just like, nah, we're gonna keep Ash. He just gonna keep traveling. He gonna stay the same age. It's just gonna be him and Pikachu against the world. That shit worked out. Like, you gotta put him up there regardless of his personality. Everybody knows his face, everybody knows his name, and everybody knows Pikachu. You put the two of them together, as you know, I feel like they put the both of them in this picture for a reason. So yeah, Ash is definitely in that icon tier. Ash is definitely my guy. At least original Ash, Kanto Ash, maybe Johto. Past that, I can take it or leave it. Asta. So Asta's what, from Black Clover. He's pretty new. Clover's only been out for maybe like 3 or 4 years, I think. He's like a really typical main character, honestly. So he's in a world where everybody has magic. He doesn't, but he's physically superior to everybody because since they don't have magic, they don't train their bodies. Since he didn't have magic, he trained his body. So he gets the answer to everything with his anti-magic randomly. That's pretty much his calling card. And he's just all about working hard, never giving up. You know, the stuff you would typically expect from a main character. And he pulls things off just because he doesn't give up. And he believes in his friends, of course. You know, bonds are very important to him. The typical shonen trope, you know. But as far as that, he's not really like all that. Because Clover's not really that great of a story. In my opinion, anyway. I don't know who this is. I don't know who that is. So I ain't gonna hold you. The current, you know what? I won't be that harsh. He's not that bad. So the current Boruto, anime and manga, both taken into consideration. He's just like a clone. He's legit just a clone of Naruto. He's basically Naruto if Naruto didn't grow up without parents. You know, like he's spoiled where Naruto was like mischievous. But as far as but everything else about them is the same. The way they fight is the same. The way he's trying to prove himself is the same. It's just like he says he doesn't want to be Hokage, but I'm pretty sure eventually he's going to want to be Hokage. Like the Boruto that they show when the series first comes out, like in the introduction, the older version of him with the sword and the Byakugan, the one that was fighting on top of the Kage statue, that's the Boruto that I want to see. But this one here, he's just like a knockoff Naruto, honestly. He's really just like not memorable. I don't know who that guy is. Ed. I'm gonna have to put Ed double S. Alright, so Edward Elric. This is my guy here from Full Metal Alchemist. So he doesn't have like the typical shonen personality of I believe in my friends, the power of friendship is how I win. I work hard, things like that. He's not particularly a hard worker. I would say he was more so like he's like honestly him and his brother are genius level because they were kids and they taught themselves alchemy, which is hella complex. So they taught it to themselves because their mother died. They wanted to bring her back to life, which is a completely understandable motivation. Of course, human transmutation is forbidden, not by people but just by the universe. But they try to do it anyway because they figure, you know, what could go wrong. We have all the compounds that make up human being, but of course it went wrong. Ed, he lost his arm and his leg, and his brother Alphonse, he lost his whole body, so he had to bond his soul to a suit of armor. So their whole journey is basically based around getting their bodies back to normal. And they go through a lot of shit. They had a pretty interesting story in Full Metal. Honestly, it's like Full Metal is in my top 5 as far as like stories are concerned. They did the whole government conspiracy thing, and they did it pretty well because they weren't like in the modern day. They were kind of like they were semi-modern. I say they were like early 80s, maybe like maybe like early 90s because they had electricity, but they didn't have like major electricity. They had like cars, phones, shit like that, but they listened to radios. They didn't have like TVs. So yeah, I would say like early to mid 90s maybe. And their government was trying to sacrifice humans for this secret organization that they had, the homunculus. And basically this guy was trying to become God. And in order for him to do that, he needed, I think like, he needed over 1 million souls or something like that. So they had this whole setup where where they figured out what was going on, but nobody else knew. And it was one of those things where only a few people knew. The government had a lot of power, so the government knew that they knew, and they was basically controlling their every move. Eventually, of course, they make it to the end of their story. They get their bodies back. But Ed, he has to give up his alchemy in order for him to get Al's body back, because Al gave up his soul for Ed to get his arm back in the final fight, and then Ed gives up his alchemy so that Al can get his whole body back. So Ed's the only person who loses alchemy. It still exists, but he can't use it anymore by the end of the series. But honestly, this is a really solid story. You know, like, to see what these kids go through, because they are kids. I think Ed's like 15 and Al was 14. To see the things that they go through, the things that they just like end up running into, and the things that they experience at their age, it's like, it's a lot. And you wonder, for them to have seen the things that they've seen, trying to bring their mother back, seeing that it didn't work, seeing a whole lot of other horrific things in their story, and still choosing, like, yeah, you know, we still gonna move forward, we still gonna try to get our bodies back, but we're not going to do it the way that we thought they were going to do that, or rather, we're not going to do it the way we originally intended, you know, because originally they were going to use the Philosopher's Stone, but once they found out how Philosopher's Stones were made, which was by transmuting live humans, Ed was just like, nah, we can't do that. So honestly, it's a really good story. Like, it's definitely worth reading. I know this kid. This is the girl from Promised Neverland. I know who she is, but I'm not too like familiar with her. I'll put her here. I know this guy. What's his name? Aaron from Attack on Titan. So I'm not particularly a fan of Attack on Titan, but I know people really, really fuck with this nigga Aaron. Like, every time I read something about him, people say like he's a top tier main character, top tier protagonist, and people say that Attack on Titan is really good. I just personally couldn't ever get into it. But because even though I haven't read the story, I still know how popular this nigga is. I'm gonna throw him up there. I think people would agree with him being triple S. This is the kid from Dead Man Wonderland. I can't remember his name, but I know he wasn't that shit used to come on Toonami. This is a guy from Gintama. I know him, but I'm not familiar with the story. I'm gonna put him here because he was in J-Stars, so he must have some level of popularity. Next we got Gon. Ugh. So Gon is definitely B tier. I'm not even gonna get into a heavy explanation about this, but I mean, I don't know anyone who watches Hunter and says the reason Hunter is a good anime is because of this nigga. I personally don't think he's like a good main character. He's, for one, he's not in the typical shonen trope with personality, but he's in the typical shonen trope when it comes to how far ahead of everybody else he is. So this nigga was like 12, but he's stronger than like 10 grown men or some bullshit like that, and faster than them just naturally. There's no reason, there's no explanation. He's just like that. And he wants to get his hunter's license so that he can find his father, whom abandoned him. And he just wants to find him and I guess find out why, I think. He ends up finding the nigga after going through somewhat of an ordeal. Like, he's a pretty hardcore kid, but just the way his story ended, he's like, Hunter continued and he wasn't even the main character anymore. Personally, I never really liked Gon. Like, my thing about Hunter was every other character, you know? But whatever, that's just my opinion. Next we got Guts. So Guts is definitely triple S. There's no question about that. This nigga, I'm not even about to like get into a long-winded explanation about his story, because if you know Berserk, then you know his story. It's fucked up. For him to have gone through the things that he's going through and to continue to like persevere in a world that is literally trying to kill him. This nigga is just like, he is what main characters are. Feel me? Like, he's not super positive. Like, he's not cheerful. He doesn't even smile. Feel me? He fights, but he's a real nigga. Feel me? RIP to the author of Berserk. He died like last month, I think. It's unfortunate because he died before he got to finish his story, which means it won't ever be finished. It's just gonna be the way it is. And that's really unfortunate. Berserk was one of my more favorite stories when I was reading it. The thing about Berserk though is it is pretty brutal. It's pretty hardcore. It's not really for people who don't like it's not, more so it's not for people who don't prefer like darker anime, because it's definitely on a darker tone. The kind of shit that happens in there is pretty major. Like the shit that happened to him from being a kid to now, it's just like, ugh. It's a really good story. And I guess it is like, it is what it is now. So I guess we got to call it finished. But I definitely recommend reading it. Don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. This looks like the guy from Rave Master. I don't know his name. Yeah, we're gonna throw him in there. Don't know you. Don't know you either. This Purgatory tier is gonna be fat. Rolling through. Ichigo. I want to put Ichigo triple S, but I honestly can't say he really is. I think he's more double S. It's just like, this is tough. This is tough. Ichigo might have to be triple S. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna put Ichigo triple S. Try not to be biased, but I think Ichigo is triple S. So Ichigo, main character from Bleach. So Bleach is, regardless of what people say, Bleach is a part of the Shonen Holy Trinity. I'm just gonna like move people to this purgatory that I don't know while I talk. So yeah, Bleach was a part of the Holy Trinity, or rather is a part of the Holy Trinity, the original Shonen Holy Trinity, which was Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. And for some reason nowadays people try to act like Bleach wasn't a part of that. I'm not sure why, to be honest. I think like the way the story ended wasn't to a lot of people's liking, and the people who didn't read the manga and saw the way the anime ended, wasn't that great either. It was honestly really trash, because the Fullbring arc is probably the worst arc in Bleach. That shit is just unnecessary. But before that, Bleach was like pretty strong. So from, yeah, I don't know, like I couldn't say years, but I know Bleach was like massively popular for a while. It's unfortunate though, the only thing they really missed out on was like having as many games as like Naruto had. That was like the only thing that a lot of anime missed out on. Like Naruto managed to get Storm, and before they had Storm, they had Ultimate Ninja. And even outside of Ultimate Ninja, Naruto had like at least 10 other games that came out for almost every console. And Bleach had a lot of games, but all the Bleach games came out in Japan. Hardly any of them came to America. If you got a Bleach game in America, it was because you had a Japanese PS2 and you ported that shit over. And the Bleach games that did come out in America were kind of trash. There was one that came out for the P4. It was kind of like a Dynasty Warriors type. It was a Musou game. That shit was hard. And I was hoping that they would make another one of that, but they never did, which was unfortunate. But anyway, I'm rambling about something else completely. Anyway, as far as Ichigo goes, he's another one that doesn't really have like the super positive personality, but he has like the determination and resolve of what you would want to see in a main character. You know, he wasn't really interested in being strong, like just to be the strongest. His whole thing was just like to protect his friends, protect the people he cared about. And the thing about Ichigo was that after, I'd say, he fought Renji. Yeah, after he fought Renji, every major fight that he was in, he fought someone who was stronger than him. And he would end up winning because he has power that he can't control. He's in that trope of having the inner demon. He would end up winning those fights. It would always be like barely winning, but he would always end up winning. But he would always knowingly fight people that were stronger than him, because in his mind, he didn't have a choice, because he was the only one that was going to be able to do it. And he goes through like training that, of course, as they always describe in anime, would kill you, but he makes it through because his determination just got him there. His resolve to just be everything that he can be for his friends. He never gives up on a fight. That nigga fought everyone. I mean everyone. And regardless of getting his ass kicked, he would keep fighting. As long as he was alive, he would keep fighting. And it's the kind of thing that you want to see. It's the kind of thing you want to emulate. You don't want to let anything knock you down. It's pretty much like the whole thing behind anime. is that it depicts these characters that go through a lot of shit in their lives. The kind of shit that people typically wouldn't recover from. Like if you compared, not even compared, but if you put yourselves in these situations that a lot of these characters are in, like the way they lose people, the way they lose the things they have, the kind of pain they endure, the kind of shitty situations that they end up in. It's just like, damn, if I was in that situation, would I be able to turn it around the way these niggas turned it around? But that's why people like characters, you know. It's just like, oh, this, like, I like to see that because it makes me feel like I can do that in my life, you know, like that's possible in reality, to turn around any kind of situation that you in, as long as you just stay determined and believe that you can turn it around, you know. It's definitely the thing that I enjoy most about a lot of characters in anime. That turn the fan on, so that's what that shaking is, if you hear the shaking. Inuyasha. So because his name is well known, just because they fucking put his name as the goddamn title of the series, I'm gonna put him up there. I personally wasn't ever a fan of Inuyasha, but I know that shit was on Toonami forever, regardless of how popular I thought that shit was. Inuyasha was pretty up there. Next we got Makunoji. I'm definitely gonna put Ippo in the S tier. So he in his series, he doesn't really go through anything super traumatic. He was kind of just like bullied as a kid. He decided he wanted to be a boxer. He became a boxer. It turns out he had like a talent for it, and you know, he was having a pretty decent career. Once he gets to, I think, like his 6th or 7th fight, from then on, like it's kind of unnecessary, you feel, while you reading it, but from then on, every single fight he's in, this nigga gets the shit beat out of him almost for no reason. Like, he will be getting his ass beat for about 8 rounds straight. I mean, just really getting fucking abused, taking clean punches to the face. He takes everybody's best punch, not because he wants to, but just because he can't defend against it. He gets hit, he just doesn't get knocked down. Niggas just hit him, they hit him, and they hit him, but he doesn't get knocked down. So he has a dynamite punch. Nobody can take a punch from him. So he'll be getting beat down for an entire fight, and in the 9th round, because he didn't give up, and because he's just like, nah, I'm just waiting for my moment, I'm gonna get that hit. He gets one hit. Doesn't matter who it is. He gets one hit. The fight is automatically in his favor. It doesn't even matter where he hits you. It's a body shot. You buckled over. You can't breathe. You might fuck around and die. Like, the nigga hits that hard. If he hits you in the head, if that's a clean shot, he's almost definitely gonna knock you out. There's probably only like there's probably maybe about 3 or 4 fights that he was in where he got a clean hit on somebody and he had to hit them more than like twice to knock them out. Regardless of how badly these niggas beat on him, he just doesn't fall, and he doesn't really have any reason why. He just doesn't do it. He doesn't want to let his coach down. He doesn't want to let down the gym that he came from. He just doesn't want to let people down, so he just doesn't fall. Unfortunately, that shit backfired on him, as you might have expected, because they don't have powers in his series. It's just, they're real people. So all of those ass whoopings he took caught up to him, and of course he ended up getting Parkinson's. So he had to retire. So right now, like, his series has continued, but he's not even who the story is focused on anymore, because he doesn't fight anymore. But he managed to become the Japanese champion. He almost became the world champ, but he ended up getting knocked out, unfortunately, and that was his last fight. After that, he was fucked up. But you know, he's one of those characters that you really want to see win, because it's just like, damn, this nigga really getting beat, but he hasn't fallen. Like, I really want to see if he actually manages to turn this around. And he's just like, he's in that super cheerful, positive shonen trope where he's just like a really nice guy, you know, the kind of guy that's hard to dislike. You won't want to fight him though. Next we got Joseph. I think I could put, I'm not sure. All right, so I think I'll put Joseph. I think I'll put Joseph S tier. All right, so I'm gonna put Joseph S tier just because he managed to make it into 3 different JoJo series and remain canon. He was the protagonist in part 2. He was with Jotaro in part 3 because that's his grandfather, and he was in part 4 because Josuke is his son. So he was really carrying it on after Jonathan ended up dying. He somehow managed to still be born, but Jonathan's his grandfather. And Joseph, I think Joseph probably was the one who really kicked off JoJo's Bizarre. Of course, he's not as important as Jotaro. Jotaro is probably the most important protagonist not even probably, he is the most important protagonist in JoJo. That's not even a question. But Joseph is probably right after him. Yeah, Joseph is probably number 2, right after him. Me personally, I would have Jolene as 3rd because I don't think Giorno or Josuke were that memorable. And then you got part 7 and part 8 with Jonathan, or rather Johnny, and then you got part 8 with part 8 Josuke. Yeah, Joseph is definitely number 2. But Jotaro, Jotaro might be triple S. Might be. Honestly, Jotaro is probably what most strong, silent type, cool anime characters are based off of. Feel me? Because I feel like he really created his own archetype when he came out. Maybe there were characters like him, but as far as I know, he was definitely unique in JoJo. They didn't make anyone else like him because all of their characters were like flamboyant. Feel me? They were all just real extra, real obnoxious. But Jotaro was the opposite of that. He was quiet. He didn't talk a lot. This nigga was 17. He was 6'5". He was like 200 and I think he was up 220. Yeah, nigga was 6'5", 220, and just like walking around, sunning everybody. Had the hose on deck, smoking cigarettes, drinking beer. He was just doing whatever the hell he wanted. And then, of course, he randomly got a stand like the same time that everybody else did, and his stand was the strongest just because he had speed and power. Light speed and basically super strength. Only one that was fucking with him was Dio and the world because they were the same type of stand. But Jotaro was really that nigga. Like, I think part 3 part 3 has to be the most well-known JoJo series. It has to be, without a doubt. It was definitely the one that I knew before I started watching it myself. But JoJo's a pretty solid series, and Jotaro is definitely the reason why I think a lot of people get into it. Because a lot of people don't even watch part 1 or part 2. They just watch part 3 and they leave it at that. They wouldn't even watch part 4 or 5. It's just like, nah, just watch part 3 and you would probably be good with that. Honestly. I know who this is. I can't remember her name. I know where she's from. I thought this was a movie, not a series. Either way, I don't know enough about her. Next we got Kenichi. So Kenichi series isn't too popular. I'm actually surprised he's here. I'll put him A tier. I think his series was in Shonen Jump. I'm not sure. But he was, what was it? It was History's Strongest Disciple. He was basically in a martial arts series where he was a kid that was getting bullied, similar to Makunoichi Ippo. And he met this girl whom was a martial artist, and he tried to protect her from getting attacked. She didn't need him to protect her, but when she saw it, she was just like, wow, you're super weak, but you still jumped out to fight people that were stronger than you. And he was just like, yeah, I saw you getting picked on and I had to protect you. So she takes him to her grandfather's dojo, and there's 5 masters there. Yeah, 5 masters of 5 different martial arts. So they see him, they take him in, and he ends up working he has an excellent work ethic. He ends up just working really hard. He goes from being the weakest to the strongest, which is always really good That's something that I really like to see in a series. It's annoying when the main character starts off with like an edge, you know, because it makes it seem less realistic, less relatable, you know. But when you have characters that are starting off as completely normal people with no talents and like no form of gifts, they just work their asses off and they catch up to all the other people who do have talents and gifts. It's something that makes you feel like, yeah, you know, that's something that could happen in real life. That's something that you could really see. That's something that could be done. Instead of someone like, say, Gon, who was just born physically ahead of everybody else. He didn't even have to try. He didn't even train or anything like that. Like, they trained once they learned what Nen was, but that was because they had to. Feel me? But outside of that, this nigga he didn't have to do anything. Nigga was 12 years old. He could do like 1,000 push-ups without getting tired. Shit was ridiculous. Kenshin. I feel like Kenshin is well known enough to maybe go up here. I know Rurouni Kenshin is really, really popular. I know that shit is like one of those classic Shonen Jump series. I haven't ever read it myself. I've only watched episodes here and there because this shit used to come on Toonami. But I know Kenshin, even though I don't know his series. And I know as far as like the swordsman trope of character goes, a lot of characters are like derived from him and the way he fights. So I'll put him up there. I can't speak on him because I'm not too familiar with him, but I'll still put him up there. I know this nigga, Kirito from Sword Art Online. I'm gonna just put him A tier. I ain't got too much to say about him. Don't know who you are. This is the guy from Assassination Classroom. This is Lelouch from Code Geass. I know a lot of people fuck with this nigga, so I'm gonna just do him a favor. I'm gonna put him up here. Same as Light. I think I'm gonna put Light up here. Light is from Death Note. A lot of people know Death Note. I haven't ever actually seen the whole series. Just like Code Geass, the shit used to come on Toonami. Funny, these 3 series here used to come on Toonami. In like the late 90s, early 2000s. And I used to see episodes here and there, but I was never really into it. But I know these characters are well known enough, so maybe I can put them up there without missing anything. Maybe. We'll see how this turns out in the comments. Maka. Maka's kind of corny, honestly, for a main character. She's not really memorable. I'll put her like B tier. I don't know who you are. Meliodas. Meliodas is definitely B tier. Izuku. I'll say Izuku is S tier so far. He's moving up quickly though. I don't know who you are. Luffy. I'm gonna put Luffy in double S. Mr. Irrationality. This is Mugen, Samurai Champloo. I'm gonna put him in Purgatory because I don't know enough about Samurai Champloo. Naruto. You know where this nigga is going. So Naruto would probably be like the face of anime, or anime protagonist after Kakarot, because, or let me not say because I couldn't say because. I'm not super familiar with the reason other than Naruto is just that popular. Like, Naruto is so popular to the point that it was probably the anime that made it acceptable to like anime. You know, because I remember when I was in like middle school, you get clowned for liking anime and cartoons and things like that. But Naruto was the first anime, I would say, when people started to like really start jagging anime. Naruto was the first one where people would be like, oh yeah, you know, I like Naruto, yeah, I fuck with Naruto. If anyone was to recommend you anime to watch, I'd say one of the first 5 anime they would give you would be Naruto. Whether it be to watch or to read. One of the first 5 they would give you is Naruto. Like, without a doubt. Regardless of any other category that they gave you, whether it be like sports or drama or comedy, whatever the fuck you would be into, Naruto would be in that list of suggestions. I'm willing to bet that. Like, everybody knows Naruto. Even if they don't know the story, they know his name, they know his face. Even if people aren't like particularly into the series, they probably got like accessories from Naruto. You know, and people who are really into the series, like, proudly walk around. You see people with headbands and shit. People with Naruto themed clothes. Like, they proudly show. Like, people who are Naruto fans are die-hard Naruto fans. Naruto, of course, still gets all his respect for being in Holy Trinity. Honestly, Naruto's in my top 5 as far as stories are concerned. Like, Naruto is, like, as close to the perfect story as you can get for the direction that they wanted to go in. And even just, like, from character development, from pace, and the fights, everything about Naruto was just like top tier. Everything about it. Ooh, excuse me. Natsu. Next. I forgot what, Ryuko? I know she's from Kill la Kill. I think I'll put her A tier. I like Kill la Kill for what it is. I like her as a character, but I'm not super familiar with how her story ended, so I couldn't really say anything about her. Saitama, I will put Saitama in purgatory, but I know who he is, so I'm gonna put him C tier, which would be the next best thing. But Saitama's a gag character. Do not consider him a main character, so his ass is gonna stay right where he at. Natsu is the same. Natsu is a horrible main character. Oh man, I'm be honest with you, I don't really consider him the main character of Fairy Tail most of the time. I consider it to be Lucy, because she's the one that the story started with, and she's the one that the story ended with. Like, she had the first panel, and I believe she had the last panel. I believe she did. So Natsu is like, the power of friendship is the reason why I win all my fights. I lose to everyone that I fight, but then I get a power up at the end, and that power up helps me win, but I can't use the power up anymore after that. And I just win because I'm the main character, and I have plot armor like out the ass. That's Natsu. I don't think he's lost a fight. He probably lost like 1 or 2 fights. But when he loses fights, they're always really dramatic, and it's always the characters that are ridiculously strong. And then, of course, he'll beat characters that he has no business beating just because he got some random power up at the end of the fight. That's basically Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail is literally the power of friendship every page. Ugh, I like Fairy Tail is one of those stories that you like at first, but then once you get to the end of it, it's just like, wow, they really didn't do anything different. Everything, like, they approached every situation the same. Feel me? There wasn't even any major character development in that series. Like, they made it to the end, and Natsu had the same personality that he had from the start. Cause it, like, moving on. Next you got Suna. So not too many people know about Hitman Reborn, but Suna is definitely a higher tier main character. I wouldn't put him up there with Deku. So Deku is S tier right now, just because, yeah, he got the whole work hard and do your best, but he's the one who has actually experienced failure. Feel me? He's the one who's been through like the hardships of growing up without a quirk, seeing everyone around him have powers and shit, and he doesn't. And like, he has this random ass encounter with All Might. He randomly saves this nigga Bakugo because nobody else is gonna save him. This kid with no powers runs headfirst into a villain and thinks up some way to distract him to try and save his friend, or the kid that bullied him. He considered him his friend. And then from there, like, once he got his powers, you actually see him, like, he's real similar to Naruto, where he has a power that he can't control, but his isn't one that saves him at random times. His is one that he uses it, and then, like, it's really fucking him up, and we watch him learn how to use this power and accept the responsibility that he has, which is honestly eventually going to be the #1 hero in their hero society. Because, you know, they got the My Hero, they got the hero storyline, which honestly is really dope. You would think that somebody would have thought of it sooner, but the way they do it is great. But because his story isn't finished, and right now his character development is really like picking up, I feel like eventually he might end up being like a triple S. Suna. So the thing about Hitman Reborn is that it takes too long to get started. The story doesn't start until like the 98th chapter, which is really weird. So if you read it from the first chapter, you would think that it was just like a comedy series, because there's no action. They don't fight. There's just like a bunch of random ass scenarios of Suna getting into some trouble because he's like a really shy kid. He's really awkward. He fucks up literally everything that he does. He somehow manages to fail at the easiest things. He meets this tutor who is a baby, but he's not really a baby. He's just in the form of a baby. And he has this gun where if he shoots you with this bullet, it's called a dying will bullet. Basically, he shoots you and you start to go over all your regrets. And I think for 10 minutes, you gain the resolve to act on whatever it is you regretted the most. So that's like the background of the series. And it's just him being in a bunch of social situations, like wanting to talk to a girl, or having to fucking take care of some kids, always being in like a comedic situation, meeting his friends and shit. You don't expect it to turn into what it turns into. Oh, excuse me. So it goes from being like this comedy, social, high school type thing to this action series that's based off the mafia, where Suna is basically going to be the head of a mafia family, and he goes from being in a bunch of random situations to actually getting into like fights with other mafia families who want to take the power that he has. The show picks up pretty well. Like I said, it takes too long to get started, so a lot of people don't fuck with it. But if you meant, like, honestly, I would say you could just skip all the way to like chapter 95. You wouldn't really miss anything. Like, you would probably miss Suna meeting characters, but you would get their names as the story goes, because the story kind of restarts. You know, it's almost like somebody different started writing it. But it's one of my it's one of the series that I like better. Suna as a main character, though, like, he can't do anything on his own. He has to always have Reborn around, but once he does have Reborn, like, his resolve is ice cold. Like, he's willing, he's the complete opposite of his normal self. His normal self is just like a coward. Once he's in this form that you see here, when he has his gloves on, when he takes the dying will bullet, this is the reverse dying will, which is where he can control his energy instead of turning into some kind of berserker, which is what he was doing originally. It's a huge difference. It's difficult for me to explain, because I don't feel like I'm explaining it that well. Dr. Stone. I haven't read this series. I know this character is like kind of popular, but I don't know enough about him. Got another gag character here. This nigga Mob. I think this is Detective Conan. I'm gonna have to put him pretty high up, just because he's also pretty well known. I know his series has been going on for like ever. I know this kid is from Fate. Yeah, Fate Stay. I wouldn't really know where to put him. I'm just throwing him in the B tier. I think his name was Shino or Shinra, something like that. I don't know a lot of these niggas. Oh, y'all already know. I don't care how you feel about this man right here. So I don't think I need to explain why Kakarot is up here. Goku, as most people know him by. I don't think I need to explain it at all, right? It's Dragon Ball Z. Without him, I'd say 80% of this list doesn't exist. Simple as that. Moving on. I know it's Spike from Cowboy Bebop. He's a pretty high tier main character. He's more so like an old school type. I know Cowboy Bebop was out in like the 90s. But that also came on Toonami. I never watched like the series all the way through, but I do know of it, and that was just because, again, it came on Toonami with all those other series. But I know Spike Spiegel was pretty popular, so I'll put him up there. The same as Vash. I see Vash over here. I'm gonna take the time, because I'm gonna be I might have some time on my hands pretty soon to watch anime and shit. I might actually sit down and watch Cowboy Bebop and Trigun and Samurai Champloo. Matter of fact, not maybe. I'm going to. Tai. I don't feel like Tai was like, excuse me, I don't feel like he was super important, because I feel like Digimon was more so about all of the Digidestined and not just him. But because he was like the leader of the gang, I guess that's the reason why they have him here. But I don't feel like the series was just about him, so I wouldn't really particularly call him the main character. You know, like, yeah, he is somewhat the protagonist, but I feel like all of them were the protagonist. You know, but I guess if he would be the Red Ranger in their Power Ranger troop. Not so much the main character, but the leader. You know? But everybody know Digimon. Digimon was almost as popular as Pokemon, but they just couldn't get off the ground the way Pokemon did. Like, Digimon is still popular, but Digimon isn't like, Digimon ain't Pokemon. Digimon is like the closest Pokemon clone you will get. Feel me? The biggest difference being that Digimon can talk and they're computer programs, whereas Pokemon exists in like the real world. But you know, the names are right there. Pokemon, Digimon. Like, Digimon was like right behind it. I wonder which one came out first, actually. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look. And then you got Tanjiro. Tanjiro is definitely up there. So as far as like working hard goes, Tanjiro is the highest tier. As far as determination goes, Tanjiro is the highest tier. As far as staying focused and not letting anything get in your way, no matter how difficult the road ahead is, Tanjiro is that. So Yaiba is also in my top 5 stories, and Tanjiro is very, very close to being like the quintessential main character. He's not in the icon tier because he's pretty similar. He's similar to Naruto, but he's different in the sense that Tanjiro is like as pure-hearted as characters get, right? So his family just randomly gets killed by a demon. And his whole his sister gets turned into a demon, and his whole journey is about turning his sister to human, which has never been done before, but he's determined to see it done. And of course, people treat him differently because, you know, his sister's a demon. But Nezuko, his sister, she's different from other demons. You know, she can control herself. She doesn't eat people. So Tanjiro's a human. Everybody in their world, they're humans, and they fight demons. Demons are basically as bad as you would imagine. They super strength. They don't necessarily have super speed. Some of them are really fast, but not all of them. They can regenerate almost endlessly. You got to cut their heads off to kill them. They're just really annoying, and they can use magic. So the Demon Slayer Corps are just a bunch of samurai, a human samurai whom die very often to these demons. So Tanjiro, he becomes a Demon Slayer. He works himself like beyond belief. Like, his training is ridiculous. And he manages to get as strong as he can by the end of the series. And he ends up accomplishing his goal. He turned his sister back to normal. He killed the demon that killed his family. And he, like, by killing the demon that killed his family, he purged demonkind from the earth. So he basically saved the world without trying to save the world. And he got to go off into the sunset peacefully, you know. And he went through some shit, and he's seen some shit, because demons in Demon Slayer are pretty gnarly. And Tanjiro, like, the thing, like, to see your family just like killed, and to have your sister turn into a demon, and to have to go through all of the hardship and training just to put yourself through that just to save your sister. It wasn't even for himself, and it wasn't even about avenging his family. It was just like, yo, my family's gone, but I need to save my sister. You know, he's like the nicest kid ever. Like, I don't know anyone who could watch Demon Slayer and not like Tanjiro. Like, his personality is just great. I don't know what this is. It's got Kuroko. Kuroko's kind of like whatever. I'll put him B tier, honestly. Not too many people know about Kuroko, and there's a reason for it. Toriko. Where'd he go? Oh, I see him. I would say Toriko is probably B tier. Honestly, Toriko is like really not, like, he's not memorable. I don't know how many people actually fuck with Toriko. It's not a bad series, but you don't like the series for Toriko. You just like the story, like the series for the story, and like mostly the other characters. Is this Saber? I think this is Saber. If this is Saber, then I'll put her A tier. I know Saber, she's like the most well-known character from Fate. I haven't watched it, but I know who she is, which is hence why I put her up there. Oh, next we got my boy Yo Asakura. So I would say Asakura Yo is definitely A tier. So he was like the most laid-back main character ever. You know, he was always chilling. I fuck with Shaman King like OD. I haven't read it in a long time. I should read it over. But yo, he was a shaman and also like an exorcist. So his whole journey was just about trying to save the world, because he had, I think Hao was his twin brother. and he was trying to destroy the world by becoming the Shaman King. Shaman King was like a tournament, so they had like the tournament style, and Yo got pretty strong by the end of his series, and he was the kind of kid that would like get his arm cut off and still be smiling, because he was always just like chilling. He was always just like in his zen. He had a wife too. His wife was like badass. She was real stuck up. They actually fit really well together. But Yo was like, he wasn't like super popular. You know, Shaman King, they never even really like got a good game. The anime is coming back. They haven't come back yet, but it should be soon. I think when the anime comes back, Shaman King might start to get a lot more attention, and it might actually get a bit of a revival. So if I had to do this list over, I might put Yo a little higher. But the Shaman King anime, I don't think the anime goes as far as the manga. Because remember the anime used to come on Channel 5. Back when they had cartoons. That was a long time ago though. Next we got Yugi. Well, this is more a Tem than Yugi, but everybody knows him as Yugi. So I would say Yugi is S tier. I wouldn't really put him double S. So Yugi is S tier just because he was always that nigga. I mean, like, he was always that nigga. I put Vash up here with Spike because they are similar in their impact. Luffy didn't get an explanation because Luffy is Luffy. This is Mr. Irrationality. This is Mr. I will do anything and everything for my friends. This is Mr. If I put my mind to it, it's done. This is Mr. There's no way you can't fuck with me. Yeah. So Yugi, like I said, he was always that nigga. Feel me? I think he lost what, twice? There was only one person who legit beat him, and that was Raphael. Technically, Raphael beat him twice. He would have beat him the second time, but he surrendered. Technically, he could have beat him, but he decided not to. So Yugi was the type that would just pull up, see your best cards, and still beat you. Like, he didn't lose, and it wasn't because it wasn't like he was winning because of bullshit. He was winning because he was just better than everybody else. Feel me? But granted, he had like a 500-year head start, so it wasn't really that fair. I don't know who this broad is. Hey, I mean, Yusuke Urameshi. So I'm gonna put Urameshi S tier. So Yusuke was so I think Yusuke would have been more popular had he not come out at this time that he did, because Yu Yu Hakusho was out the same time as Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball Z was really like just ramming the anime and the manga game. So a lot of series that were prominent at that time didn't get as much light. Yu Yu Hakusho was probably the number 2 shonen series at the time, because you had Dragon Ball Z, and Yu Yu Hakusho was probably the one people knew about right after. So Yusuke Urameshi, Spirit Detective, I think he was like 17. He died in like the first episode of his series, saving some kid from getting hit by a car. And then he got brought back to life on the account that he would become a Spirit Detective. So at first he was just randomly exercising ghosts, but then he met Hiei and Kurama, and that was pretty much when the story started to take off. Then the story becomes about martial arts and trying to save the world. So funny enough about Yusuke, I think he beat Toguro, and he beat Sensui, but he lost to Yomi, which was his final fight. He ended up losing the last tournament because he lost to Yomi, if I'm not mistaken. I remember Yomi was hella cheap. I think he was immune to demon energy. So Yusuke had to use up all his demon energy so that all he had left was human energy. And then by that time, he still almost beat the nigga. And I don't even think Yomi ended up winning the tournament. I'm not sure. I haven't watched Yu Yu Hakusho in a long ass time. But Yu Yu Hakusho, I got a fond memory of that shit because True and Troy had let me borrow their PS3 when I had first moved into my mom's crib, because I didn't have anything to do. I had a TV and I had a cable box, lucky enough. But that was the first time I had a TV that worked ever, you know. So I was just like, damn, I don't have any games to play. And they had a P3 that they weren't using. They was just like, yo, if you watch Yu Yu Hakusho, because we got the entire series on this PlayStation, if you watch Yu Yu Hakusho, we'll let you borrow this P3 until you go to school. Because I was leaving the college, I think a month from then, or something like that. So that was how I ended up watching Yu Yu Hakusho for the first time. And that shit was like so dope to me. I was just like, yo, this shit is fire. And I think that was like and then I ended up reading it but I read it maybe like 3 years after watching it, and that was about 10 years ago. Well, watching it was about 10 years ago. Reading it was about 6, maybe 7 years ago, maybe 5. It was a minute ago, but I know enough about Yusuke to know that he belongs up here. And then boom, and then boom. All right, cool. I actually got that done quicker than I thought. Yeah, much quicker than I thought. So this is the list as it goes. We can ignore the purgatory because those niggas don't matter. So yeah, I think this list is pretty solid. Like I said, I had done this before, but the last template I didn't have all the characters that I needed. I think I explained everybody as well as I'm going to be able to right now. If you see anybody up here that you think should be placed higher or lower, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate it if you clicked on this video. If you actually made it to the end, I appreciate that even more so. Leave a like on the video if you appreciate these tier lists. It's going to be a while before I make another one, but don't trip. Leave a comment, like I said. Let me know if you feel like I fucked up or if you feel like I did something right. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because, you know, we real close to, like, it might not look close, but we actually real close to getting 100 subscribers. That would be a big deal. Well, that's going to be a big deal when it happens, because I believe it's going to happen. And yeah, I think that's everything. Right, cool. So, all that being said, it's your man Dan signing off. Not before reminding you, it's a dangerous world out there. So are you.